Well, this, of course, is a snapshot of just how the, country's economy is operating, with the Nairobi Securities Exchange being a barometer of general economic performance. There are those, of course, who say that this has adversely been affected by the ongoing and prolonged activities in the political scene. Is that the case? Well, that's the question we want to put to an analyst who is in our I&M City Center studios. Johnson Derry is research manager at ABC Capital. He now joins us live from the City Center. Johnson, karibu sana. Now, first off, there are those who say that indeed the economy is feeling the pinch of these prolonged and indeed very vibrant political times. Do you agree?
Well, of course. Especially in a country that is so dependent on government policy, what do you call because we don't know what's going to go on going forward, right? The uncertainty caused then in terms of public policy is affecting, of course, investment decisions. And of course, some people who are not being paid because of the prolonged political season, if you want to call it that, that's causing some sort of slowdown in the velocity of money spreading around in the economy.
Indeed, there are very few topics ever make a libertarian such as yourself, Johnson Derry, tongue-tied, and this seems to be one of them. Now, the fact of the matter has been that with the country on this heightened political footing, there are many investors who are taking a wait-and-see attitude in some quarters. We've had some postpone their spending to next year. Of course, tomorrow we are told that the president will be addressing Parliament. A budget of about 1.17 billion shillings is expected to be discussed. Do you think this is good money being thrown after bad, or are we really investing in our democracy?
Well, we've started the investments, huge public spending that has been going on with regards to projects, and they can't be left halfway. Otherwise, then they will see absolutely no benefit accruing to them. So any sane person would want those to be finished. The only problem is that what we're seeing in terms of the budget deficit, of course, that will remain to be very high, possibly above 10% going forward, maybe 2-3 years. Its effect on borrowing and acceleration of debt service, revenues to debt service ratios, which is going in the wrong direction. So, but it cannot be helped, at least not in the short run. Save for maybe perhaps the government selling some assets to bridge the gap.
In regards to the election itself, the upcoming presidential election, we expect to have an expenditure of anything from 1 to 13 billion. It has been said there's still no clear numbers, even with estimates that have been sent to Parliament. Do you think Kenya is indeed able to shoulder this, or will this simply make the deficit worse?
Well, from a point of view of cash flows, this is what I was referring to earlier, as we reallocate money that was earmarked for something else to focus on this special, runoff, if I may call it that. I'm told that maybe runoff is not the proper term. Whatever the case, it is valuable time and resources spent in this process that really we could do with other areas. So with regard to whether we can actually shoulder it, I think we can, but perhaps maybe at the pain of other areas, because we have been seeing that the government has been running a huge budget deficit, and therefore you might find they may have to float perhaps a bond or two just to make to make these payments.
Let's talk about the future. The fact that even with this election coming up, life does have to go on. Kenya, indeed, is an economy that has shown remarkable resilience in the face of what has been going on. What can we expect going forward? And secondly, for any leader who does take up the mantle after the elections, what should the priorities be?
Well, that's quite a loaded question, asking a libertarian what it should be versus what is going to happen. From what we've seen, there's very little ideological difference between the two parties, save for the fact that on one hand, NASA said they'll put a little bit more resources at the county level. That might call for a significant restructuring of the way government does its business, so that we may be able to afford that, because we've been running current account deficits of at least 1% for the last maybe 4, 5, 6 years, and going forward with the same structure, and moving more resources to the county government could lead to a higher recurrent deficit, which is not good for the economy. As we said earlier, the development spending will continue. So the development spending will, of course, push up the deficit much further. So, but that's baked in the cake. So I don't think we will see any too much deviation from that. But perhaps what I would pretty much like is to see the government rationalize its spending, and maybe hopefully put some assets in the Nairobi Securities Exchange and raise some funds to bridge the shortfall, instead of increasing taxation or spending, which I think are very likely going forward.
My final question to you, Johnson, the fact that you as a libertarian have your own views on the way this economy should be going right now. What are those in? I know it is a lot of a mouthful, but what exactly do you think should be the situation right now, and what would you do as a leader going forward?
Well, I think perhaps where the conversation ought to start is the role of government in society, because I think this government has bitten off more than it can chew, and that's why it's there's this high demand of resources, and therefore higher spending, higher taxation, and that's choking the private sector. If you look at the Stanbic Market Purchasing Manager Index, it's been significantly deteriorating. That needs to be overhauled. The energy sector, I think the former President Kibaki started a good job, but I think we can see a little bit more private participation, especially and economic freedom, especially in the distribution of fuel. So I think there needs to be a little bit more investment in that area. I like the investment going in the energy sector, at least even from a production perspective. Other areas that probably, and that need a little bit more, to be relooked at. I think I'm with the governor on this one. I think the price caps or the price controls in the banking sector need to go. That'll help the economy allocate resources better through the financial sector. I would add we need a little bit more liberalization in the agricultural sector. The price controls in the energy sector as well needs to be done away with, so that you can see more investment and more assets or investment allocation or resource reallocation in those sectors, and help drive the economy going forward. I think that's where I'd start.
Okay, indeed, at least that is a start. Indeed, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. Johnson Derry is Research Manager at ABC Capital, one of the larger, research firms, investment banks, and lenders in this market. Thank you very much there, sir. Now,